Marcus, Stackmore. How's your trades going?
What trade? We are all
What trade, Sean?
What
what
trade?
trade? Oh man.
How
I
many
just
BMs
to know
right
is
now?
when
You
you
know,
say hike, is that like a basketball term or is that a football term?
It's a set hike. That's an American football term.
or what about trade? Is it like a NBA trade or
Yeah, yeah. Are you trading people back and forth?
By the way, there's this Turkish basketball player in NBA right now. I really like his style. It's like this kid named Alperen Şengün. It's like
What team is he on?
Rockets.
The Rockets. Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, good dude. He looks like I don't know, very slow, not very athletic and all that stuff, but has such good fundamentals. I really enjoy watching his style. But
The
anyways,
the
so
Europe the Europeans in the NBA have always have good fundamentals without
oh
fail.
yeah,
Without fail.
yeah. So by the way, how is your fundamentals like when playing in Europe, for example?
Oh, I'm a veteran now, so my fundamentals are. I mean, I've played in Europe for a ton of years, and so it like I've gained a lot of skills since I started playing out in Europe. Before,
Yeah.
I thought I knew how to play. I thought I knew how to do all these things. I was just a dumb college kid, and I didn't really know what basketball was yet. And so I think a lot of guys go through that process of you go out and play. Like, I always come back and play in the US during the summertime, and I'll team up with some teammates that we had in college, and now we've played professionally, and then we always come back and we'll play in these pro-ams against college kids, and we'll kill them because they just don't know how to play basketball yet, right? Like, they're athletic, they're young, they run, they move, but they're just not smart enough yet. They don't have the experience. So it's always
But
fun. They look at us and they go, "Oh, these are some old guys," and then
yeah,
we just work them.
it's like Uncle Sean.
Yeah, Uncle Sean coming in.
Yeah. It's also like the same in Bitcoin, for example. You think you know about money, you think you know about economy, you think you know about how things work, and then you start learning about Bitcoin and you're like, okay, I need to relearn all these because yeah, it's not what I was taught. So
Yeah, it's Bitcoin is basketball, just like what you're saying. And
yes. That makes you so happy.
yeah.
It does.
And at the same time, um, Bitcoin will humble you because you literally have to stack sats and stay humble. And if you don't do that, you'll get humbled. So it's either
Yeah.
you
Or
stay
Uncle Sean
humble.
comes and destroys you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and humbles you that way or
or,
something.
or Sam Bankman-Fried comes and destroys you,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like, that's what you risk. There's the third party risk if you don't stack sats and stay humble.
yeah.
There's always a
That's
third party risk.
yeah.
Exactly.
Oh,
So your trades are going good. That's
good, good.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just the same trade. What's your trade right now? What's the
My
trade?
trade is stay humble and stack sets.
Okay, all right.
Or
Just checking. Just
meaning.
checking.
Yeah.
You
So
gotta.
basically, what I do is I trade my time for sets.
Yep. Yep.
That's the
Do,
only trade I do, and it's going good.
All right. All right.
do you manage to
I,
actually trade your time directly for sats, or do you get fiat and convert to sats?
well, whenever I get fiat, I directly convert it to sets. So technically, I do, but yeah, in reality, I don't.
Okay. All right. You're in the trade that most Bitcoiners are in, which is mine fiat, exchange fiat for Bitcoin, and
But
opt out.
I mean, so before I had this mindset, for example, like spend and replace, you know,
Yeah.
uh, but then, a couple years passed and, you just realize that fiat is just a big bullshit and you don't want to touch that stuff. So I directly buy Bitcoin. I spend during the month or whatever, and I spend my using my credit card, for example. At the end of the month, whatever the price is or how much I need to sell, I sell, and I keep the extra shipped to my cold wallet. So that's what I do repeatedly.
Yeah.
Of course, this is not like the best method during the bear markets, or like, I mean, for me, it doesn't matter when I do this. Like, if the price in if the when I buy it, if it's like, let's say $20,000, and at the end of the month when I sell it's $20,000, I don't lose anything, for example. If it's a little higher, I get to keep more sats, you
Yeah.
know. But if you do this on a long enough time, like, you do it during the bull markets, you make a lot of extra sats. And in the bear markets, when you keep doing it, it kind of neutralizes itself and you lose all your sensitivity to the price hikes, so I don't, yeah, care. I just don't want to touch fiat or touch it as minimum as possible.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's one of the biggest things is you're just DCAing at this point, not worrying
Mhm,
about the price. And it takes a lot of experience to get to the point where you don't care about the price because
mhm.
you realize what Bitcoin is. But before we get into that, just wanted to welcome everyone who's watching to Bitcoiner's Guide. This is the show that we wish we would have had when we first started learning about Bitcoin. So we made it for you. We are humbled today to be here with Stackmore.Hodl, Plan Marcus. Just want to do a quick timestamp and price stamp. Today is Friday, December 30th, 6:52 a.m. in the Pacific time. I'm back home in California, enjoying this Christmas season. And the current price of Bitcoin is $16,000 and some change, down 1.18% in the last 24 hours. So Bitcoin, in case you're wondering what the price was as we're speaking, it's down, what is it, down 70% from the all-time high or from the record high? Because who calls it an all-time high? There's never an all-time high for Bitcoin because it always makes its way back up after that.
All-time high is something for the past in Bitcoin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like to call it the record high because it's not right. It's the record high and it's gonna go right back over it again eventually. But what makes you, as we get into this, right? As we're talking about the price, and we were just talking about the price before this, what makes you not worry about the price, right? Because when I talk to my friends, I talk to my family, that's the first thing that was always brought up. Oh, what's Bitcoin's price doing? Oh, it must be rough for you right now. And what makes you not worry about the price when it comes to Bitcoin?
Well, it's the understanding of the clown world, and yeah, who is running the printer basically. So once you get to know those people, then yeah, the price in fiat terms becomes totally meaningless, because yeah, it's like a really bad run company, let's say. I wouldn't put any energy or time in that as an investor or whatever, because I know that the company will eventually fail. It may look strong from the outside, but if you know how it's actually running, yeah, you'll be completely confident that it will fail. And fiat is that, in my opinion. Like, I mean, okay, so there's the Yellens and Powells and the Lagardes and all that stuff. And on top of this, there is the Turkish ones that I'm exposed to. So,
Right.
Who's the
Has it
Turkish who's the Turkish
has it
wow?
they change them like every 4 or 5 months. This guy right now, his name is Nebati.
Navarti.
It doesn't matter. It's just
Is,
like a
is
person.
is it a
That's
fiat? Is it a fiat party with Navarti?
no party with Nebati.
I heard, I mean, the stories coming out of Turkey are really bad, right? You guys had like double-digit inflation, like year over year, if I'm not mistaken. So it's
Yeah.
really bad. And I remember seeing articles of your president like firing the head of the central bank a couple of times. So like, is that all true? I mean, just a little
Yeah, that's
summary
the
for
thing.
people who don't know much about Turkey.
So Turkey is so for the people who don't know about Turkey, I want to start by saying that Turkey is not that different than United States or
Yeah.
European Union. They just have
Yeah.
a big establishment, or like. So basically they're all operated in a similar manner. Like, for example, Turkey is officially like not official, but like the Islam is the biggest majority in Turkey. Okay.
Hmm.
And in Turkey, interest rates are no, in Islam, interest rates are like a sin.
Yeah,
To
Rabba. Isn't it called Rob?
riba,
What is it?
riba.
Riva. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So this is one of the funniest parts for me. So like the Turkish president had a fight against the interest rates.
Mhm.
He's like, oh, we need to bring the interest rates down because it's riba and all that stuff.
Yeah,
But for me, if it's like, if the interest rate goes back from 18% to 17%, is it less of a sin then, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
So it's like it's so ridiculous. And right now the interest rates, I think they lowered it again, is at like 11% right now. And the official inflation rate is at 80%.
80.
Yes. And the
80.
unofficial
When you
80.
Wow.
and when you say interest rates,
Wow.
what are you referring? Is that like the Turkish federal funds rate, or is that
Yeah.
like your credit card interest rate? What kind of interest rates are you
So
referring
the
to?
this is the political interest rate. So which means that the banks borrow from the central bank with 11% or something, you know. And of course, they add up their own fee structures and all that stuff over it, and they give to the public at a higher rate. But the thing that kind of doesn't matter is that this is where we get a bigger cantillon effect
Yeah,
because you know, you can get, technically you should have access to like some 12%, 13% interest rated credit or a loan.
yeah,
But yeah, it's getting harder to get loans unless you are close to the government or working with the government projects. So I mean, if I can get a loan at 12% and if the inflation is at 80%, if I just literally borrow money and buy some commodities or whatever,
Yeah,
I
you're a
make
winner.
money.
then
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
then you can pay it back easy.
yeah. But the cantillon effect here is that like, so you can get credit easily if you have already some assets
Yeah,
that you can show as collateral, you know? So yeah, people with assets and all that stuff, they just keep growing and growing and growing. And the public is just suffering because, yeah. And also this, one of the ways how money is created is by, when I get a loan from the bank, it becomes credit and it creates money basically. So
hmm,
so at the expense of close friends getting cheap credit, all the public is paying back with inflation. So
Yeah. But how does the public deal with that? I mean, I know there's I always follow like these different market research companies that poll like how many what percent of the population uses Bitcoin in different geographies, and
mhm,
Turkey's always like way up on the list. You guys are like well over like 20 to 30% of, let's
mhm.
say, it's crypto users, right? It won't be
Yes.
Bitcoin only, but compared to other countries that are maybe averaging around 8% or 6%, it's really high. It's like 3 to 4 times as high as other countries. So when the when you're dealing with like 80% inflation, like what do your friends, your normie friends do, right? Like
yeah.
do they flee out of
Okay.
the
First
Turkish
of all,
lira or
let's clarify this, Marcus. I don't have any normie friends left. I all orange pilled them, or we all orange pilled each other, or whatever,
surely
you
you
Oh,
know.
still
really?
must have
Wow.
family.
Yeah, I'm my
There's
circle.
no one, that's like, no, Bitcoin's a cult, you know, we got to trust in the Turkish lira.
Of course, there are some, yeah,
Yeah.
laggards
This is
or
interesting
whatever.
though. This is maybe like what a glimpse into the future, Sean.
It is a glimpse into, it's a glimpse into the future of like the euro, the dollar. This is exactly where we're headed, you know.
I
And
mean,
just like
uh,
you were saying, like the United States and Turkey is not, I mean, it's not that different at all.
yeah,
It's very similar. This
I've been
running,
to Turkey twice. It's a great country. It's a
yeah.
modern country. It has
Oh,
big, beautiful cities, beautiful
yeah,
people. You
Istanbul.
know, and
Yeah.
look, beautiful people.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't
No,
see a beautiful person from Turkey. What are you talking about? Just playing, man. I'm just playing, man. You look
I'm
great.
beautifully
Great.
inside Chan, okay?
You look great.
But the funny thing is that like 5 years ago, we had 8% inflation.
5 years ago.
For example, yeah, we had like,
That's where the United States.
That's
The
where
United
we're
States.
at right now.
yeah.
Yes.
So I had this like tweet actually, like I don't know how many years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I'm like, when it comes to high inflation, as a Turkish person, I'm front running you guys. So yeah,
Yes.
so there should be some lessons to be learned from me or whatever, you know.
So okay, here's an interesting
No, but
question.
we still need an answer to the question.
Okay,
Because
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
you don't have any normal friends anymore, but like, what do people, what does it mean for people when you go from 5 to 80%? Like, what
Mhm.
changes?
Oh, first of all, a lot of things change. By the way, 80% is the official one, and there's a
Yeah.
group of economy professors or whatever that they keep a separate tab and they calculate the inflation from using their own data. They come up with 185%.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
that's crazy.
Yeah. So I want to give a real example. For example,
Yeah.
we are we are in dairy business and everything like or
In the what business?
farming or dairy farming.
Dairy.
Milk, dairy.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we have cows and milk and all that stuff. So for example, everything in Turkey, the prices are based on the dollars. Everything you can imagine of, but you are not allowed to sign contracts in foreign currencies now
Yeah.
because nobody wanted to sign up. For example, you are leasing a car and let's say you bought the car for I don't know, $10,000,
Hmm.
and the $10,000 you paid for it was 80,000 liras.
Yeah.
And
Right.
like last year in December, you can check the graph sometime. It's crazy. Like we just had this like abnormally, and the dollar went up to 18 or something in like couple of days.
Hmm.
So that car is still $10,000, but now it's worth 180,000 Turkish liras. And if you have your contract in Turkish lira, let's say you like before the Turkish lira lost that much value over a couple of nights, you would get paid back in, let's say, 2 years.
Yeah.
But when you know the currency or the dollar value doubles, which means the Turkish lira value of the car also doubles, then it becomes 4 years. So people started to make contracts in dollars and all that stuff. So
So
to,
but if you did it in Turkish liras, was it not a fixed contract or
yes, that's
so
the problem.
so if it's a fixed contract in Turkish liras, shouldn't you be able to pay it off faster as the currency
If
inflates?
your
Yes,
income
so
increases, yeah.
it's easier for you to pay for it, but it's harder for the person who is giving you the service to pay for it.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Because let's say you signed a 12 months contract and it's, let's say, 100 Turkish liras a month. Look, or let's say I'm renting the car to you and you are paying me 100 liras a month.
Yeah.
And if 100 liras becomes half in value, then for me as the person who is renting the car, it becomes a problem.
Yeah, you up the price.
Yeah, because then,
Of course. Yeah,
yeah.
that makes complete sense. How do like wages adjust in a situation like this? If you're a worker or if you are somebody who's hired people, like
Mhm.
what how does that solve
So
itself?
wages, normally we get minimum. By the way, in Turkey, I think over 53% of the population earns minimum wage. And okay, I need a calculator now.
Yeah, yeah.
And the
And
minimum wage is adjusted each year or every month?
yeah, each year,
Each
it
year.
was each year, but last year we changed it. By the way, the minimum wage right now is exactly $294 a month,
Okay.
which is actually really bad. But in the next year, it will be like in January, it will be like $450. It will start with $450 a month because they just readjusted it like 54% increase or something. But
Is it
normally,
is it pegged in dollars and then
no,
expressed in liras, or
No, it's going to be all in liras.
always
paid
in
in liras and expressed in liras, which is the
okay?
problem.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, the minimum wage normally used to increase once every year, but last year they had to increase it once more in July.
Okay, so what you're saying is that more than half of the population earns or has a minimum wage contract. Is that what's like said in
Yeah,
the contract? You're earning minimum wage, and
yeah,
then they just look towards the government each year and adjust the prices to whatever the government says
yeah,
is allowed.
yeah, basically. And
Wow.
the interesting thing is that, so let's say the official inflation rate is, and the minimum wages are adjusted according to the inflation levels. So if the government kind of cheats and reports a lower inflation rate, what people earn is also lower.
Right.
You are always losing
So
purchasing power every time
exactly.
your
Yes.
wage gets readjusted.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one good way to see this is like, okay,
So
so
you lose purchasing power really fast, and then every year the government will,
yeah,
quote unquote, adjust it to keep up, but it doesn't adjust enough to keep up. So you're even when it adjusts, it doesn't adjust enough for you. So
yeah,
compared to a year before,
it
you're
just
another step back. Yeah.
it's a continuous stuff of purchasing power basically.
But
And
It's
the
like three
interesting,
steps back and then two steps forward.
yeah, like, oh, we have a Turkish marching band actually called Mehter Marşı.
yeah.
So this was from the Ottoman Empire times, and they used to lead the armies with this like march and all that stuff, and they used to walk like two steps forward and take one step back. So it's like a Mehter
Yeah.
March at the
Yeah.
moment.
However, in this case, it's
But
three
it's
steps backwards and two
two
steps
steps.
forward when
Yeah.
they adjust the the
Yes.
Yeah.
minimum wage. Yeah, but you're still one step behind every time.
Where you started, and here's the kicker: is all of these things. It seems like, right? You're saying, yeah, it's going to be $450, but expressed in liras and pegged in liras. Here's the kicker: is the dollar is going through inflation at the same time. And that
Yes.
and that's what I think a lot of people outside the United States, in countries like Turkey or wherever they are, like Argentina, a lot of Argentina is going through a very similar thing, and a lot of Argentinians are fleeing to the dollar to escape inflation in the Argentinian peso. But the issue is that the dollar is also going through inflation right now, and
Yeah.
people don't realize that, right? And so they're trying to find some truth, some peg where they can save their money and save their wealth, but they're putting it into the dollar, which is also inflating. And if you look at
Mhm.
So then,
Americans
so
are
then you're
complaining about the inflation, while other people from other nations are trying to get into the dollar, and unknowingly that the dollar is going through all this inflation at the same time.
So when you can convince people from Turkey, Lebanon, Argentina, or all the bad currency places to hoard dollars, actually what America is doing is exporting its inflation,
Yes, exactly.
because there's always demand for it, and that demand is not for spending most of the time, it's for saving, so it doesn't improve add to the velocity of money. So it's perfect way to export your inflation onto poorer nations.
but
And
how do Turkish people view crypto and Bitcoin?
Turkish people I think are very interesting, like, so Turkish people are very agile in changing investment instruments, so
Mhm.
if something is trending, everybody jumps onto that. So in 2021 everybody was on the whatever, it's the crypto train or whatever, because
Yeah.
and I was checking it for myself, and I'm looking at the volumes of the Turkish exchanges. Like, there were days that BitTorrent, for example, was 38.8% of the daily volume of an exchange. Why BitTorrent? Because it was something like 0.000 something, you know. So you look at the
Sorry,
volume.
I'm not following. 0.00 what?
Yeah, so it has a lot of zeros in front of the dollar value. So, you know, one Bitcoin was, let's say, $50,000, and one BitTorrent was 0.000 something dollars. Or
Is BitTorrent like a shitcoin or?
oh, yes. BitTorrent is like the guy who makes the announcement of an announcement.
Oh, like Pompeiano or
I'm not
something?
following.
No, the Justin Sun guy. That guy's
Okay.
Like
I'm not familiar with that.
yeah. It's
Okay,
related to
so
Tron or
everybody
something.
was jumping on this shit coin that because of unit bias.
Yes, unit
unit bias.
bias.
Yeah.
And you check
Like all the
the
XRP army.
you check the literally the top volume of the top 15 currencies on Turkish exchanges, and during that bull market, like Bitcoin was number 14 or something. And it was the only thing that had a higher value than $1 per unit.
Wow.
So
It brings
people
up this
just
discussion about needing to use satoshis
I
as a
talked
unit
about
on
it with
exchanges. Yeah.
with one of the exchanges. I'm like, you guys need to switch into the Satoshi standard, because then people start buying this stupid shit, and
Yeah,
so it's not just
they'll buy sats because they'll think, oh wow, it's so cheap, you know. And if
yeah
they just realize that like you are buying sats instead of pricing it in
Yeah.
Bitcoin, if you say, hey, yeah, there's 100, like we're just gonna do
Get 6,000 sats for $1,
yeah
versus like it's $20,000 for one Bitcoin.
yeah 100
yeah
million sats in one Bitcoin, and when people realize that, then it's like it's so much easier to break it down.
yeah. So right now I make these videos on this channel called Satoshi TV, for example, and every episode I somehow try to mention that Bitcoin and Satoshi are the same things, but they're different units. So I think exchanges also want to make sure that people know that they are buying Bitcoin when they are buying sats.
Yeah.
So they are kind of being slow on doing that integration or something. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
the unit bias is a problem, because people are like,
But
like this
I like
zero
what you
point.
said though. Basically, what you're saying is people are, because of such bad currency management in your country, if I can, I don't want to, whatever. But because of that, because of all this massive inflation, people are forced to become traders, right?
Yes,
And they've adapted to that, and they've learned to
Day
actively
trade.
manage
Yeah.
that. So they have to spend meaningful time instead of
Mhm.
working to pay attention to, hey, what is going up and what is going down in the
Yeah.
markets, whatever that market may be. That's basically what you're saying.
I would
So
say
when Bitcoin
everybody.
has been going down for the past year, are people now looking towards, like, I don't know, what's been going up? Are they buying gold now, for instance? I mean,
The
I guess.
trend in Turkey for 2022 was the Turkish stock market, and housing is always strong in Turkey. But
Okay.
yeah, a lot of people invested in the Turkish stock market because after the Ukraine-Russia war, a lot of people from Ukraine and Russia escaped to Turkey, and
Right.
they brought their wealth into Turkey, and also a lot of
I'm sorry, what did they bring into Turkey?
Their wealth.
their money.
Oh, their
They
wealth.
also,
Yeah.
yeah, and a good portion of it used Bitcoin to actually, like, to transfer their money because of this problems with the Swift and everything, after the sanctions. But so some, like oligarchish Russians also bought into Turkish stocks and started to pump the stock market, and more Turkish people joined it. So the Turkish stock market is just pumping right now. Yeah, so this year's trend for Turkish people is the stock market, basically. So
Okay, I have a question about, when you sign like when you've been signing these contracts, or when people in Turkey have been signing contracts that are expressed in Turkish liras. So for example, if you buy a home or you buy a car on a loan, and you get a loan out in Turkish liras,
Mhm.
Do those are those fixed contracts? Like historically, those have been fixed contracts. Since you guys have been hitting these record highs in inflation, have these contracts, have the lenders themselves been breaking these contracts and renegotiating contracts without the consent of the lendees, of the people that are receiving these loans? Or how is that working? Because this is
Mm,
something I always think about when you're living in a country where there's high inflation. And this is what a lot of Americans say is, look, I'm going to buy a house. I'm going to take a loan out because inflation is much higher than my loan, than the interest on my loan. But what I think about is, well, if we go through hyperinflation or very high inflation, there's no way that the lenders are going to allow that. Like the banks always have the final say, and the banks will always renegotiate without our consent, and then you'll just be screwed because we're going through hyperinflation, and like there's nothing that you'll be able to do about it. You'll just have to comply with the renegotiation of the terms of the loan. Is that happening in Turkey?
Oh, yes and no. So, for example, the real estate market is actually very big in Turkey, and the government kind of supports it by, uh, for example, normally, if I wanted to get a loan for a new house, let's say I would pay 20% and interest a year, let's say,
Yeah.
but they give these subsidies through the money that's lent by the government banks. And they say, well, if you buy a house between this period and this period, uh, your mortgage will be 10%, So people just rush the market.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this skyrockets the house prices. And the people who previously did this are in such an advantage
Yeah.
because, they have a fixed interest rate on something that's value is super increasing
In the Turkish
nonstop.
lira. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it just becomes a cycle. So people try to access to cheap credit as much as possible so that they can buy hard assets like, real estate or something, and they expect inflation to hit and rinse and repeat basically. So
And I'm sure the people who buy the houses, they think that they're geniuses, right? They go, "Oh, we're
yes.
smart. We're smart for getting into real estate, for buying a home." And yeah, it's like you're smart, but you're also kind of lucky. And
Mhm.
and they don't realize how the system is built upon itself. And I think that I see that so many times here in the United States that people think, especially since 2018, like housing rocketed up in the United States. And people think, everyone on their block made $100,000 on their home,
Yeah.
and in 2 years, and then they go, oh, we're so smart. They brag about it, right? Like they
Yeah.
literally will brag and tell you, oh yeah, I made this much money in my home and all this stuff. And there's a difference between if you're trying to let people know about financial terms and things that are going on, yeah, let them know. But
Mhm.
people will just go out and just blurt out how much they made, and without understanding how the whole system is built upon itself. And I think that's where people get confused in inflation is everyone they try to find hard assets naturally, but they don't understand where this all ends up. So it's fun to watch. It's not fun, but it's interesting to watch how things are going in Turkey, because it can kind of help people in other countries who may not experience this yet, but are going to experience this.
Yeah,
Maybe
but like for Turkish people, I would explain them if I had to explain them in like one sentence. Turkish people get FOMO'd more than anybody else I know. Like
Yeah.
because like if crypto is moving, everybody jumps onto the crypto trade.
Yeah.
If which I really don't understand, but anyhow, but if the stock market is moving, everybody jumps on the stock market train, and at the end of it, everybody gets rug pulled,
Yes.
by the crypto projects
yeah,
or even the stock
Stock
market stuff.
market. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
because
yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. So what if you think about, right? Because if you kind of mentioned already, if you have like a lot of wealth, it's easier to get loans, so you can even, make use of like this hyperinflation to,
yeah.
to get more assets for cheap, basically. But the people that are making minimum wage, that half of the country, sometimes I wonder, what advice do you give somebody like that? I mean, they barely make enough to just, get like the food and the rent that they need. And how does Bitcoin help them in your view?
Yeah, so like
Or how does
especially
it fit in? Yeah.
especially at this time like of the year, since it's like people will get new wages next month, but we already have price increases in the markets, because
Yeah,
everybody is selling their goods for higher now because they are front running the future inflation that will rise from the increase in wages.
unbelievable.
So like this month, I wouldn't convince anyone who is earning minimum. I wouldn't try to convince anyone who's earning like minimum wage levels, because really they are barely making it.
Yeah, they can't
But
save, right?
yeah. But that's why, for example, we see a lot of people that gamble using cryptocurrencies. Like, and also sports betting is big here. Other types of gambling is kind of big here too,
Yeah.
because people just, they know that if they keep on doing this, they will only make it like month to month. So people choose
Yeah.
to take higher risk and try their luck. And I mean, I would like to explain them that, but
Let
I
me
mean,
let me pose the question different. Imagine I strip away your business and everything you have, your family wealth or whatever, whatever you have, and now I
Mhm,
put you in a minimum wage job, and
mhm,
you have $0 in your bank account or in your Bitcoin wallet, whatever.
mhm.
What's your game plan there?
I would be happy to have $0 in my bank account, by the way.
I knew that was coming the minute I said it.
Very,
I
very
mean,
few
like,
in
is it me knowing what I know now, or
yeah.
is it me without knowing what I know now?
I just, sometimes, we always talk about stack and sell your chairs and stuff, but sometimes people just got to focus also on just improving like their cash flow, right? And make sure you
Yeah,
get
yeah, yeah.
that
Yeah.
up
Yes.
first, because if you're just making barely enough to get around, like somebody coming to you tells you buy Bitcoin, it just won't resonate with you, because
Oh,
it's like, dude,
Mhm.
I've got mouths to feed, I've got rent to pay. What are you
Yeah,
talking about buying Bitcoin? I don't have any money left over.
that's the thing. Right now, suggesting someone to buy Bitcoin is not the solution. Like, first of all, the best thing you can tell them is to increase their cash flow somehow.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because, and and the problem is that most of the people, when the cash flow is increased, your spending increases. So what I would suggest is like try to find ways, legitimate ways to sustainably increase your cash flow, and yeah, just with everything you can save, put it into Bitcoin and just work towards that. Because I calculated this in 2019, oh no, 2017 March, uh, one Bitcoin was 5,000 liras. And
Yeah.
in, like, let's say, uh, January 2022, one Bitcoin was 800,000 liras.
Wait, how many years was that in between? I'm sorry.
Like
One,
5 years,
yeah.
four and a
5 years.
half years.
Wow, that's crazy. Maybe just a little anecdote as well. I'm here in Colombia, and
Mhm.
I arrived here in September, I believe. And back then, for €1, doesn't matter, euro, dollar, whatever, but it was 4,200 pesos for €1.
Yeah,
Right now, we're at the end of December, and right now it's 5,100 pesos for €1.
yeah,
So it's almost from 4,000 to 5,000,
like
basically. So what is that?
25%.
25%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in
But
less
the
than
thing is
half a
that,
year.
so
Whoa.
I told you about the change from 5,000 liras in 2017 to
Yeah.
800,000 in, so it's
So that's what
160
I'm thinking.
times
Is
of
it going to be
difference.
eight? Is it going to be 800,000 here in Colombia in like the next 5 years to one?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
But
I don't know what the
the
euro
other
is
thing
gonna do.
to
So
think about this is like, so if somehow in 2017 you saved up one minimum wage and bought Bitcoin with it, in 2022 January, it was equivalent of 54 minimum wages.
yeah, that's a great
And
way of putting it.
54 divided by 12 is 4.5, 4.5 years. So if you just did that, your 4.5 years of working, you didn't have to do that even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, so no matter what, I try to tell people that, don't look at the dollar value or the lira value, it changes. So just check how much work you could afford to buy. If you just put 1 month of your work into Bitcoin and etc. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
There's this meme going around, one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin, right?
yes.
And people say the fiat price doesn't matter.
Mhm.
And my reaction is always, because does price matter? It depends, the way we've just discussed, like the lira or the lira fiat price doesn't matter because it's constantly falling over, and the US dollar price doesn't matter. But the purchasing power price, if you will,
Yeah.
does matter, in my opinion.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
Do you guys agree, or?
Uh, I think not that it doesn't matter at the moment. I will tell you why I think so. Because I think, that there's a saying that price is the signal. If you can pay X amount for something and get it, then that's it and all that stuff. But I
Mhm.
I think in these times, the price is not the signal. Like, I think the markets are really confused and nobody really knows the actual price of anything, because we
yeah,
still value the dollar too much, for example, in my opinion, because
Right.
at the end it's something that's printed out of thin air and there's a lot of debt that's not going to be paid, and so we'll eventually have to print money, and there is always a lag between let's say the money tightening started to happen, but the inflation recently started. There's a lag between, yeah, the reaction to the money printer.
it's
Yeah, but I would push back on that, right? Because I could, like, right now, this bear market feels like 2018, right? Like, I mean, I've barely done a little over one cycle that I've really been paying attention, and it feels like we're going back into like 2018, 2019, and back then, the price was like what, between $3,000 and $10,000, so
Yeah.
if you look at it on like a longer term scale, then look what Bitcoin's been doing. It's just been going up and up and up. And yeah, sure, in between, we've had like these massive run ups and these extreme fluctuations. But I can kind of explain that exactly by what you're saying, is that like the population of Turkey is just running from one FOMO thing to the other FOMO thing, causing these. But if you just zoom out and
Mhm.
you take away that running back and forth, and you look what it's actually doing over the long term, then yeah, that's probably roughly the rate of monetary inflation throughout the world that we're seeing.
Yeah, true. Also, like we were discussing about this the other day in our, like, we do meetups in Istanbul and we have a Telegram group that we talk. So, okay, so let's say 1% of Turkish population is an actual Bitcoiner. I really don't think
That's a
it's
lot.
0
yeah,
0.1% is the population that actually holds its private keys, for example,
Right.
so
Yeah. Meaningful
uh,
difference. Yeah.
and much less than that, nobody really knows about Lightning in Turkey yet.
really.
It's like it's not discussed enough. Nobody really knows about it, but because since the, like, okay, in Turkey, let's say I'm working at Ernst and Young, like
Yeah.
the auditing,
Mm.
The big five.
and I
Yeah.
started working there, and I get paid minimum wage, and they overwork me, and the same person doing the same job in America gets like, let's say 4 times purchasing power that I get, by doing the same job and in less hours. The same company, the same job, you get overworked and you are paid less. And
Mhm.
so in Turkey, a lot of people actually are that like trying to shield stuff to each other, like, and because if you can get like paid $1,000 a month from a shitcoin company,
Yeah.
then you are much better than the rest of the population. And so the people are really motivated to, shield these stupid projects and blah, blah, blah. So that's also a problem.
You have to, yeah, and it's interesting because once you get to understand what Bitcoin is, how do you shill some altcoin to friends and family or to random strangers in your own country just because you're getting paid by some random altcoin company? I look at like guys like Pomp, right? Like he's
Yeah.
shilled himself for like, but what we're buying, like, Bitcoin is about freedom and it's freedom money. And so
Mm-hmm.
how do you justify shilling some altcoin? Because now it's not freedom. Now you're a
Yeah.
slave. Now you're like you've compromised your morals, and now you're a slave to that money that you've created that you've made because you've done something against your own morals. And I think that's what's
So,
really hard for people to understand is like how can you build on I think that's one thing like okay, we're talking about getting like increasing your cash flow, but I think another thing that's important for Bitcoin is that it's not mentioned very often. It's I've kind of seen this undertone from like the Nick Carters. You just see it from Jameson Lopp, right? The
mhm,
whole thing is you can't build on Bitcoin and make money. You have to build on all these altcoins, but you're not actually making money on the altcoins. It's just the founders are throwing money at you, which is people's life savings, and then
mhm.
and then they're like Sam Bankman-Frieding all this money, and then they're taking it and they're giving it to these influencers. And so that's why I think it's extremely important to build on Bitcoin. Whatever you're building in it, you don't have to be some software developer to build on Bitcoin.
Mhm.
You
We
can,
are building on Bitcoin right now.
yeah, we are building
Like,
on Bitcoin right
yeah,
now. Exactly.
so
And I think that
true.
and I think that's what we have to really focus on. And we need more Bitcoiners to think about this. Like, how do you build on Bitcoin and build something successful and think in the long term, like do a low time preference, build something successful on Bitcoin over the years. And it takes time to do that, but it's possible, right? There's people out there that have built businesses. Like I look at CoinKite, like CoinKite's built something
Yeah.
profitable on Bitcoin, and it's possible to do that, but it takes more creativity. You're not going to be getting like
It's
money from
not the lowest hanging fruit or something.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
not going to be getting VC money, right? Because the
Yeah.
VCs all want you to have some token. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you build something on Bitcoin, you have to actually have something that provides value, and it's harder work, and most people don't want to work hard.
And one of the reasons why Bitcoin fixes things because it really pushes people to build something that are valuable,
Yeah,
so instead of
exactly.
just getting VC monies and and doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we were talking about so you said Marcus, for example, this feels like 2018
Good.
uh, in price wise kind of has that vibes, but I think what we are seeing that's getting built at the moment is far superior than 2018. So I see so many projects around that are like, yeah, there's so many more people are working on Bitcoin. People are trying to do things. So I'm like, I have a this year I had a really
Like,
good
are you a dev as well? Are you building stuff?
no, no.
No.
I mean, what I do is I do these YouTube videos, but other than that, I try to translate things into Turkish to get it localized. Like I help Mempool'da Space, Vault of Satoshi, Bitcoin Beach Wallet I'm working on right now, or any project that could be good for the Turkish market. I try to translate it, as a volunteer. I translated books. I help the publisher in Turkey pick Bitcoin books and all that stuff. I spend a lot of time on
Wow.
Bitcoin.
Awesome,
Awesome.
awesome.
Uh,
Yeah, and I think that's how I got to know you. You know, I mean, from the time I got on Twitter, as far as I remember, I don't remember exact dates, you know, but it must have been somewhere around 2020 that
okay,
I started following, or maybe 2019. I'm not sure.
19 maybe,
But
yeah.
for in my perception, you know, like from the time you get on Twitter and you look like, okay, who are these people you see interacting? You were always there, and you know, you always seem to make a lot of sense, or you would like correct me if I would say something stupid, you know, or add on to it. So, but
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
go, how long have you been around? If you want to say, I mean, what's your journey been like? Because we've been talking so much about Turkey now, but
my
we need to
journey
know more
was
about Stackmore.
on my old computer. I have a Bitcoin 0.5.0 node, which was from 2011.
Wow.
Oh,
But I didn't buy anything then because I think there was only Mount Gox or something, and I tried to mine. I was a
yeah, but
member
it's
of this
super
guy.
interesting though, because apparently you were caught enough in 2011. I'm always fascinated by this because if you hear about Bitcoin for the first time, like how do you then like get to downloading such a crazy protocol on your computer? You know, you really have to something caught your attention there.
Yeah, I mean, there was this Swedish guy that was, so we were playing this game, and there was this Swedish guy that was saying, oh, there's this new kind of money. It doesn't have any owners. It's decentralized. You should test it and blah, blah, blah. And maybe we were like 100 people in the group, and maybe I was one of the couple people that actually downloaded and tested it, but I couldn't manage to mine, or after a while I stopped checking Bitcoin or whatever, but at least he gave me enough pushover to start me thinking about it. So, and in the
Wow.
old computer I also found that I became a member of this exchange in 2013.
Oh no, we
Oh,
lost him.
ooh,
Rug pulled. What'd you do, Sean?
nothing.
Wow.
Oh,
What
right,
a
right
what
when
a
I was getting injured. No, yeah, we'll have
yeah,
to.
check
Oh,
the check he'll probably come back in right now.
yeah,
That's always fascinating to if you imagine, you know, like back in 2011 or 2012, how few people were you know into this stuff. I think it was like in the thousands of people. So, you know, on a worldwide basis, it's like crazy to think about that you were that early. And like most people from that time, you know, it's like, yeah, you didn't look at it as something that was going to go to $20,000. So, you know, it's more of a experiment.
yeah. Looks looks like he said his battery died.
Oh,
Okay, yeah, he's gonna just grab his charger and hop back in.
guess we'll cut some of this out, right?
Yeah, yeah, we'll just
It's going
edit
to be some a little bit more editing for you. I'm sorry.
it. I'll have to remember this. Yeah, but it is amazing. Like, and it's crazy what inflation really does to.
Yeah, and how fast it goes. Because when we
They
were
were,
having 2% inflation and they were having 8% inflation, we're like, ha ha ha, look at those idiots.
yeah,
And we're literally at 8% now.
yeah. But then there go. It's all just everyone's just comparing themselves, and it's interesting because he's talking about how everyone's just like, okay, in Turkey they're just hopping on to whatever. Okay, well, we'll go to the crypto or we'll go to real estate, whatever everyone else is doing. Everyone's just comparing themselves with everyone else, and they're not actually surveying what's going on and how to position yourself. They're just like, oh, everyone's talking about this. Okay, I'll go on that. Like
Yeah.
no one's doing any verification. And no one's
No, because
actually
people
doing,
don't have the time, dude. People are so caught up in their jobs. You know, if you're, I mean, even you, if you're like in the middle of some big season, right, and like you have to focus on every game and you're in the finals, whatnot, you don't have time to like pay attention to like analyze the stock markets and
yeah. But
what's
it's
really,
easier.
what's,
It's easier now though because now now I've created this foundation, and like I think for a lot of us Bitcoiners, you create this foundation, and then we're on Bitcoin Twitter enough, and you kind of see what's going on, and you just stay up to date with everything that's going on.
I agree, but look at the investment you made into this, right? And
Yeah,
time wise, it's crazy. Like,
yeah, it
who
took a
has
long
that kind
time.
of time?
Yeah, it took a
Who has
long
that kind of
time.
time to invest? If you
It
are
took a
literally like
couple
what
of
he's
years.
saying,
It took a
if
few
you're
years.
working, yeah, if you're working at Ernst and Young, being like overworked, and you come home at 10 o'clock in the evening every night with like your head full, you think you have time to like listen and focus on a Bitcoin podcast? You're gonna be sleeping in 5 minutes, dude. Like, it's impossible.
Oh yeah, and you've been like doing financial stuff all day long, so you think you know better than
Yeah, that's even worse. Yeah, you think you already know, you got the knowledge, but
yeah.
oh man, yeah, it's going to be a slow process, but at the same time, it's very funny, when I hear his example of like everybody just jumping on crypto, like people just use stuff. They don't think about what it is, what it represents. No, it's just like, okay, it's something I can make money off of, and I have this dollar problem, so or this lira problem, so yeah, I'll buy some crypto because it's going to go up, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's just the way it's going to go, because Bitcoin always just goes up because of its fundamentals and its game theory, blah blah blah. And then maybe that's how we'll just get to adopting Bitcoin, and people will just still have
Yeah.
no clue.
Yeah.
Like even 40,
That's
50 years from now, when 70% owns it, they'll still have no clue how it works, or why it's important, and why it's good, or why the world is changing for the better.
yeah, but
Yeah.
it'll be there. And that is so true. There'll be so many people that'll just call us lucky. And it's like, no, we really actually did the work. We figured out what was going on, what was wrong with the system, and we saw that there was a solution to that, to the corruption and to the problem that was going on. And we grabbed a hold of it and we won. But then they'll just be like, but those people will never have realized what the issue was in the first place with fiat. They'll never understand how Bitcoin actually solves fiat.
Nope. They'll still be like
And
concerned with the thing of the day.
yeah, they'll be like, you guys got lucky, all this stuff. But at that point, they'll be like, whatever. We maintain freedom, like freedom of money, which is very essential to freedom in itself.
Yeah.
And we maintain freedom of speech because Bitcoin is just communication. Like money is the tool of communication.
Yeah, and not only that, you maintain that stuff. Okay, so you defended freedom, but at the same time, we've now changed the incentives from going to short term to thinking long term, to get that low time preference in
Yeah.
there. And
So it
I
won't
think
even
that's going to
matter.
be like the killer change
And we'll
thing in the world,
and
like it
we'll have
will
made
end all this short term nonsense, that is peak fiat stuff.
yeah, and we'll have gained a bunch of wealth. We'll be rewarded, and you get rewarded for it. Like you, if you do the work, you get rewarded for it in
Yeah.
Bitcoin. Like that's just how it goes. And but you have to make sure that you keep your keys.
He's
And
literally saying like people are working at Ernst and Young getting things, so they end up trying to scam each other, right?
yes,
So
yes, like
if you can take that away from people, and people can
yeah,
just like start, just relax, relax your body, start thinking about what you really love and what you care about, and being a good person. Now you can be a good person. You don't have to scam anybody anymore. I mean, yeah, dude, I can't imagine how the world's going to change if this all plays out the way we see it playing out. It's incredible.
it is incredible to think how like it is amazing. We're incentivized to scam each other. And that's what's sad is we are literally like the people who understand Bitcoin, once you understand it, then you get incentivized to scam other noobs. And so you
Yeah.
have to make a decision. You have to make a conscious decision to not scam, to not accept scams, to not make scams, and to not pass scams along. And there's a
That
lot of
game,
people who just say, "Hey, look, I need the money, and so I'm gonna push some scam along instead of worrying about the future of the world and making a positive impact on the world. They just worry about making more money. It's like, at what point do you need, like, at what point do you need more money? When do you
you know,
say,
you know why? Because it's musical chairs, right? I'm
yeah,
sure you've played it as a kid. And
Yes.
some kids go really far when they play musical chairs, where they literally rug pull a chair from under
Yeah.
somebody,
Yes.
and they're planning to. They're walking around these 2 chairs or 3 chairs or whatever, and they know they're getting less, and they're like, if the music stops, I'm just gonna grab this chair, and I don't care if this person like busts his
Oh,
tailbone, you know. I'm
yeah.
just like gonna. That's literally like the incentives at play there, you know.
Yeah.
That what he just described, you know, that's what happens when you're sucking. That's what Michael Saylor says. When you're sucking the oxygen out of the room,
Yeah.
people start competing with each other, and they get nasty, you know, and they, yeah. And then if you, but to be honest, because now I'm stuck a little bit, because then with Bitcoin, it's going to happen too, right? I mean, it's a hard asset. I guess it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and that's what is interesting is that the whole like the Warren Buffett saying, right? Be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. We'll edit out his name.
Okay, I'm back.
Hey, there it is.
Let's change my name again.
Yeah.
I changed houses.
Houses.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you get like a new mortgage in the meantime, because inflation is so high?
Yeah. I found like I can't joke about it too. Actually, it's funny. Okay, I'm back.
All right.
Yay, with the Bitco poster.
We have
Yes.
to kind of think of where we ended off of before we.
I know where we
can.
ended up. The last thing I said was shit. But I think before that I was saying, so yeah, in 2013 I became a member of this exchange and all that stuff,
Mount
and
Gox?
then I decided not to buy, not because I don't trust Bitcoin, but because the exchange that I signed up to was based in Northern Cyprus,
Okay.
and there can be a lot of scammy things there. So I said, nah, pass on, you know. So,
Well,
but finally, huh?
Cyprus had the bail-in in 2013 as well.
Yes, actually, that bail-in, yeah, that was the same year that this exchange was founded, and it's still operating. And I'm actually even getting sponsored from them now for doing
Oh,
mining.
really? Awesome.
It's funny, but back in the days, I don't trust any Northern Cyprus random company. They moved to Turkey and all that stuff at least. So anyhow, yeah. So in 2017, Turkey was going to have a referendum. And before that, in Turkey, the president didn't have a lot of power. The power that the president mainly had was the power to veto. But after that referendum, the president was going to have a lot of power, and it was a group of friends and we were talking, well, we need to do something and make sure that these guys cannot mess with our money.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did some investments in Nasdaq together and all that stuff. But at that time, we also we're thinking of Bitcoin, but then people were like, oh, Bitcoin is too slow, it's not programmable, it's this. So technically, the first thing I bought was Ethereum because I fell to the marketing trap.
Yep.
But, you know, I do like, I like to research and all that stuff too. And I even had my bot tried buying some crypto kitties and was testing, and I saw that so, stupid crypto kitties collapsed network, and they were saying like, oh, this is the next new world computer, and I'm like, okay, if it can't handle the kitties, it can't do shit.
Yes.
So I got rid of my Ethereum, and I know, oh wait, now this place has also my door, and I need to open the door. Anyhow, so yeah, I had some journey, like I bought into 4 or 5 different shit coins. I was very conservative with that.
But this was also 2017, so this was when like everything
2017,
was
end of
moving
2017.
fast.
Yes,
Right.
yes. Or I remember like I bought Cardano.
Yeah, this is the
Cordano.
idea. This is the idea, Cordano.
Cordano, yeah.
This-
I bought Cordano, and the story is really funny. So I have like he's like my best friends. We are still real good friends. We know each other from since we were like 9, 10 years old.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I discovered this thing called ADA, and you should buy it. The guy is a genius, and blah blah blah. So I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll buy it. No, so he's like that was that was the shittiest thing I bought, by the way. It was Cordano.
I bought XRP back in the day, so
I was thinking of it early in 2017, but a friend of mine was thanks to him. He's like, oh, this is a very centralized shit, blah blah blah, and he
That's fine. It's good for the viewers.
yeah.
Okay.
It's because you said Cardano.
Yeah.
Cordano, yeah, that triggers
Labra? Is that Labra in there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Labra hates all the altcoins.
I found him. Labra.
Labra, come back inside.
Labra's arch nemesis is going actually right now. Philip, hello, Labra. Say hi to Sean. Hey, look at you.
That was funny.
Anyhow. So, we bought it when we bought Cordano. It was 2 cents. And in like 3 or 4 weeks, it went up to $1.20 or something.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, so we sold it together with my friend and blah, blah, blah. And, the funny thing is that I found out that my friend was dating a girl named Ada at that time.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and he was like head over heels in love with her or something, And he's like, yeah, you should buy Cordano because, and he never
because he
told me
liked a
about it.
girl name because he liked a girl with the same name.
Yeah, that was the reason that I ended up buying Cordano. I mean, okay, this is I think such a better reasoning to buy Cordano than what other people do. But still, it was pretty lame, But anyhow, so
yeah. So do you have a few more? I'm not sure on you. I know you had to run. I'm not sure if you still have a few more minutes to talk.
Yeah, I think. Wait, let me see.
We have these 3 questions that we have to ask at the end of the show, and they take a few minutes as well. So take that into account.
Let's go for the 3 questions.
Okay, because I knew you had to run. You had some time. Okay, so
we can do the 3 questions. I have enough.
Okay, here we go. First question for everyone listening in. What did you read or listen to that really made you swallow the orange pill? What was the thing that was that click?
So, okay, in 2018, I went to this conference in Berlin.
Yeah.
And it was Elizabeth Stark was a speaker there. Nick Szabo was a speaker there. Yeah. And before going, I went through Nick Szabo's articles, actually.
Yeah.
I read them, like a lot of them, and took some notes and all that stuff. And that also happened thanks to my friend, because he's like, well, if you are going, you should like read them. And if you summarize them for me, like do a proof of work, I'll send you some Bitcoin.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay, why not, And actually, I gave Nick Szabo some gifts there. I gave him seashells.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because of the shelling out, I'm like,
yes.
Oh, thanks for all your cypherpunk efforts, or, everything, blah, blah, blah. And that time I also saw Elizabeth Stark on the stage. She was talking about lightning and all that stuff. So after that, I never looked back.
Awesome.
What was it like? Was there something that you read in Nick Szabo's articles or that you heard?
Yeah, also in the conference, like I listened to the people live, and it was a block stack event. It wasn't a Bitcoin event actually. Mm-hmm. But I mainly went there for Nick Szabo and all that stuff. And I saw like the shitcoin propaganda versus actual Bitcoiners, and that was good to see for me.
Yeah.
And actually, like knowing that, that we could do so much more on layer twos. Like we could have a secure network, open monetary network, Bitcoin, which everybody can use.
Yeah.
But we can also add some more functionalities and like do faster transactions and cheaper transactions. Seeing that was okay, we don't need the other shit coins now anymore. And one more thing that was really important for me was the beginning of 2018, when your X token or coin XRP was
Yeah.
like $3 something. The ex CEO of XRP was like the fifth richest guy in America. And I saw an article about this, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, okay, so there's this guy, and the next guy after him is Sergey Brin, who is the co-founder of Google.
Yes.
What did this guy do other than selling this stupid stuff? So I lost. That was a point for me. That's like, oh, there's a huge bubble here.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I got out of things then. So
And
that was
and,
a good article for me.
and that founder, he's been selling like thousands of XRP every single day.
Yeah,
Like he's
millions,
yeah,
millions maybe.
yeah, I think it was like millions of XRP every just dumping on the XRP army.
Yeah, he had like 17 billion XRP, and at $3.30 a pop, he has like $55 billion
Yeah,
on paper, on
yes,
paper,
on paper, yeah.
or on the very centralized 20 ledgers of XRP or
Yeah.
whatever.
That's why he signed that thing to just sell it all, but they wouldn't let him sell it all at once because he would have totally just crushed it.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's
He would
still,
have caused a Luna incident or something.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so seeing Nick Szabo, seeing a Cypherpunk, it's weird because Nick Szabo doesn't really, you don't hear from Nick Szabo anymore. It's interesting. Like there's some people that were around that would speak out a lot, that would get
Mhm.
the word out, and then now you don't, like, I don't ever hear Nick Szabo really speak or tweet or
Yeah,
really anything anymore.
I don't really see him interact anymore as well. But I even gave him a kiss. I gave him the gift and I gave him a kiss. And in Turkey we do like double kisses, like on both cheeks.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
gave him the awkward Turkish double kiss, and he's like, what are you doing?
yeah,
He's like, no, no, this is normal. This is no homo. This is Turkish style of
yeah.
thank greeting someone or whatever.
Yes, yeah.
So, yeah.
They do that. They do that in
What
Spain.
what kind of, because I've never met him, and to be honest, I mean, I read Shelling Out, but I don't know much about his personality. He always, just like many other Bitcoin tech guys, sometimes I refer to
Yeah,
them as like
Autistic.
angry, autistic, a little
yeah.
bit like
He's
hard to
distanced.
socialize.
He looks distanced
Yeah,
normally. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So it was weird, but whatever.
That's how it
yeah,
goes.
cool.
Okay. So question number
You
two.
got to meet him.
How do you see hyper Bitcoinization playing out?
If at all.
Yeah.
I think it will happen somehow. And
But how? That's what we're
how?
at. We want to
Yeah. You know,
Stackmore.Hodl he's been looking at Bitcoin, thinking about Bitcoin for years. How do you see it playing out?
I really think Turkey could be a important place for hyper Bitcoinization,
Okay.
because we have 5 million refugees from Syria.
Yeah.
Like, think of it. Like, these people had to leave their houses because of war,
Mm-hmm.
and they couldn't bring anything over here. Like, they just literally escaped from the war, and if they had Bitcoin, they would be able to bring all their assets or whatever.
Yeah.
We have refugees from Afghanistan, a lot of them. We have now people escaping Ukraine and Russia and all that stuff. We have a lot of Turkish people who are the young Turkish people who are leaving Turkey to work in jobs outside of Turkey, that they also send back money to their families and all that stuff. We have a young population. We have the most FOMO population in the world. So yeah, at some bull run, I really could see Turkey kind of triggering the hyper Bitcoinization because it's also in the center of everything. So
Yeah.
we are close to Middle East. We are a bridge between Asia and Europe, and we are close to North Africa. So if it happens, it could happen here. But then again, things happen, and I lose faith in that.
Yeah.
But the Bitcoin FOMO could trigger things here because it's not a small
But
country. So it's like 80 million people live here. And yeah, and inflation is a
so
big problem. Yeah.
but we're not there yet. And even though Turkey has all these you know, like marks in front of its name that put it ideally
Mhm.
on the spot, what would need to change to get to hyper Bitcoinization? What would need to happen?
Well, more people need to understand how money works, actually. I think that needs to happen somehow because I don't think number go up is a sustainable way for hyper Bitcoinization because, like with the current cycle stuff, number goes up, comes with number goes down. And for me, okay, I have so many reasons why I stay in Bitcoin because I love Bitcoiners too. Like I think they're like amazing people, not like toxic and this and that. Like in real life, Bitcoiners are super cool people.
Yeah.
So I think more people need to meet Bitcoiners. More people need to try to understand Bitcoin, and less people should watch mainstream media. Uh, you know, but it's a process. It
But
won't
every
happen overnight.
we're all stuck in the matrix, right? Like
Yeah.
we're all caught in that matrix of we don't know. Like everyone's listening to something they think that they're telling them the truth. How do people go from? It's so hard. It's so hard to get out of that. But I don't even really know how I got out of it or how any of us get out of that because you just one day you just start thinking for yourself and you stop taking those messages from the mainstream media.
Mhm.
But
Well,
I don't know how you
you
like
know,
get that.
by the way, one of the most important things that may lead us to hyper Bitcoinization, I think, happened in this year. And that was, yeah, USA sanctioning Russia.
Yeah.
Because it's not just, I called it an auto-immunization attack. Because once you take Russia out of the equation, then everybody else starts to think like, by the way, Turkey does not hold any US Treasury reserves in its reserves in the last 4 years.
Wow. They sold
Yeah.
them
Also interesting, yeah. They sold everything and they don't hold it anymore. I mean, our central bank has a minus balance sheet at the moment without the swaps, but that's a whole other subject to talk about.
Yeah.
So the Saudi Arabians also started to think like, what if they don't let us use dollars anymore? So they are focusing more on gold, and they're actually building a refinery, gold refinery, which they didn't even have, despite how much they value gold. So things are slowly changing around the world, and yeah, the money is a game of trust, and if people start understanding Bitcoin and can really understand why it's a trustable money versus the alternatives, then yeah, hyper Bitcoinization will eventually happen. I
Yeah,
don't know if it
I
was
agree.
a
I agree.
answer.
Yeah, like the deglobalization of the money, right? Because that's what with the sanctioning of Russia basically puts the world on a red alert, right? Like puts China on this alert. It puts the Saudis on the alert. Hey, if they can sanction Russia, they can sanction us, and they can kick us off the global standard of money. And so
Mhm.
if you deglobalize the money of the world, which the United States essentially did by not valuing Russia's treasuries or Russia's U.S. treasuries, then what you're saying is, look, the U.S. dollar is no longer the world reserve asset. It's no
Yeah.
longer the world reserve currency because it doesn't work when you're in Russia. So, and that's the cool thing about Bitcoin is Bitcoin has no borders. Bitcoin's for friends and it's for enemies. It's just money, and money, it's amoral, it's apolitical in its nature. And then that's what it needs to get back to. And that's what Bitcoin is. It's the separation
Mhm.
of money and state. And the dollar is this politicized tool to get gain, to get power, to crush your enemies.
And to direct power as well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so
Like,
it can cause wealth, but when you cause that wealth in certain areas, you're extracting it from other areas and you're causing poverty in certain places. And so
mhm,
Bitcoin is just it's the fair game, and the dollar is not a fair game. The dollar, in my opinion, is un-American. It's not, it
mhm,
doesn't stand for freedom, and Bitcoin does. And so it'll be really interesting to see what other effects come from the US. I mean, it just lights this light bulb in people's minds around the world. Well, the US could just as easily take us off of the dollar. And then what do you do? And what do you do then? You have to protect yourself for an event like that, because now there's a possibility that the US doesn't agree with what you do, and they take you off the standard. And so you have to be
mhm.
prepared for that.
Yeah, that was a really important thing that happened this year. I don't think we have fully seen its impacts yet, because countries are slowly taking steps. That's what I'm thinking. Like, it doesn't happen overnight.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
because
agree.
they
I
still have a
definitely
big
agree.
baggage that they need to get rid of, and if they do it all of a sudden, yeah.
Yeah, I remember the news coming out, and people were like pressing fish and stuff. They were also saying, like, the dollar just got shot in the head. I think it was like
Yeah,
first quarter of this year or
Yeah.
early this year. It
I
also
think
shows
that happened.
how short term our memories are. We're all like thinking, oh, FTX was the biggest thing this year. This happened in November 6th, and we
Mhm.
forget about the whole Luna collapse and all the other things. There's so much happening, and then if you zoom out on a longer, maybe like a year and a half from now, or in half a year, there'll be this other little article. Like there was also where the Saudis um, didn't. I think that happened this year as well. Help me out here, guys.
If they
I
were
think
looking to sell
Biden,
oil, yeah,
yeah, yeah, they didn't listen they didn't align with the interests of the United States for like the first time in like forever.
yeah,
So, and they've opened up talks with China, and like
Yeah,
the group of countries that China, Russia, India, and Brazil, I believe it is, that they're so you have
yeah.
all these clear
I have
signs, which the insiders are saying like, wow, this is like clear sign of the times, but it's a process that takes years. Yeah.
I have an article that I wrote in April 2018, talking about how Saudis, China, Russia, and India could align in
yeah,
buying oil in non-US dollar assets and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see things come out in play, and I think it's, yeah, like, the dollar is at its strongest point right now, like these days. Like, the only thing it can do is to become less strong. So,
yeah,
and we'll experience that, and it is just going to be more people losing trust at it, and Bitcoin will just be the opposite.
yeah. Well, and I mean, and the omnibus just passed in the United States, so that's another 1.7 trillion dollars that's gonna get printed.
You
Like,
know,
and that's the beginning. Like 2023, there's gonna be so many things that break, and like the
Yeah.
money printer, like just get that thing warmed up, because the
Yeah.
US
We've
dollar
normalized.
so much weaker. Like the rate hikes, in my opinion, I don't know how we keep hiking rates. I was one of them saying you can't hike rates at all, and I was way
I
over.
was
So
I was a fail in that too. I really didn't
Yeah.
expect to hike the rates,
No,
but
everybody in the whole Bitcoin space was like, well, maybe they can do one or two, 50 basis points hikes, and that'll be it before everything breaks. And in the end, this year, how much did they do? Eight,
yeah,
7? I'm not even sure what the
yeah,
count is, but
yeah,
but
yeah,
you know what we were mistaken at, that there is a circuit relay delay. So there's a delay between,
yes,
we kind of might have missed that on that point.
yeah.
So
Just how when the money printer burrs, the inflation comes about a year to 18 months
yeah, yeah,
after
yeah.
that. Like it doesn't come right away. So
Mhm.
So the same, maybe it's the same thing with the rate hikes. Maybe the rate hikes, the impacts come. I think we're going to see a lot of job losses in the United States and so and maybe around the world too. So
Of
okay,
course.
okay.
If
Final question.
the
Oh, sorry.
United States sneezes in this conjuncture where the dollar is the king, the world gets a flu. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. The whole world catches a cold.
yeah, yeah.
So okay, last question. Okay, we've talked about fiats are getting printed to infinity. Bitcoin's gonna win, all this stuff, but we also got to take the opposite argument and think rationally for a second. What happens if that's not true? What do you see as the biggest threat to Bitcoin?
One world, one government world or something, basically. So you
Like
know,
a global new world order, like a
yeah,
non-government organization,
probably.
like the left for someone taking over and then just having full
But
surveillance.
that's very not likely to happen,
Yeah.
because yeah. So I don't know what I really think is that in the
Why
next,
why would why would a one world government be a threat to Bitcoin?
they could try to like give a hard time unified to the people to have access to Bitcoin, use Bitcoin. I mean, they cannot stop it obviously, but uh, so for example, in Turkey, they technically banned Bitcoin payments between merchants and blah blah blah, which is not true, by the way, because it's a central bank mandate and doesn't have a fee or fine or anything against like that. But people still are afraid of it. So it's too easy to scare people.
Okay,
And
so the threat of so by making it illegal, they can't stop it, but it scares people enough to abandon it. That's what you're saying.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Because like, yeah, like at the end, even let's say if everybody understood Bitcoin up to some point, like, yeah, like probably 80-90% of the people will not use it because it's illegal.
Yeah.
Which is also like a interesting question, because like who defines what's legal and who defines what's illegal and blah blah blah, but still, you know.
Yeah. I always imagine, the horse and buggy days, and there was a group of people trying to outlaw cars, or make certain
Mhm.
driving above a certain speed, make that illegal because it would be dangerous for people walking on the street. But in the end, you can't stop a good idea, which is better, right? So in
Yeah,
the end, the good idea should win. That's what would give me hope. But I completely agree with you. If there's some world government or the United Nations coming together, the G20 saying we're going to outlaw this, well, we're going to be,
no, the G20 can
that
outlaw it, by the
you,
way.
you won't kill a good
Yeah.
idea, but you can prolong the, the
Mhm.
the time that it takes to adopt. So
Yeah, but still,
hey, one last question from my side. I really appreciate your time, and I super enjoyed this conversation. By this way, it's always cool.
Labra.
Abra.
Yeah, Labra.
Wait,
It's
I
not
need
your
to.
show, Labra.
Labra, come on, Labra. Actually,
Clone
the
I
funny
always
thing
clone
is
on
that
Labra.
a Labrador is actually walking right now and he's barking at him.
Okay.
Labra has been harassing me
Yeah,
all
yeah.
for the past 2 weeks in the DM.
Yeah.
No, my question is, what's your background? Like, what did you
Yeah.
what are you by training? I mean, did you go to, or are you said you work in the dairy industry, but
No, I
we've
don't work
seen.
in the dairy industry.
Oh,
My family does.
okay.
Uh, I'm an industrial engineer. First of all, I didn't want to go to college, okay? Because I told
I'm
my
not laughing. I'm not laughing at your career. I'm laughing because Marcus and I have this. We have this war between each other. Marcus
And
has a
I'm winning
yeah.
by a landslide.
Marcus's theory is that if you're an engineer, you understand Bitcoin better.
Hmm.
And and
Faster,
probably
yeah.
and probably 90% of our guests are all engineers. And then
Yeah.
I'm a basketball player. So
But basketball is Bitcoin, so it's okay.
exactly. That's why it's
Yeah.
easy to understand. Proof of work, right? It's easy to
Yeah.
understand.
Too
Sean
bad.
understands the engineering behind basketball.
But no, so the reason I became an engineer is because, okay, first of all, I didn't want to go to college, but my parents were like, oh, you should go, blah, blah, blah. And I asked them, well, yeah, maybe I can try to travel around the world and I'll find something to do. And they are like, you are still too irresponsible. You'll end up being dead somewhere or something, you know? So I went to Arizona State University.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah,
No
because
way.
it was chosen the #1 party school by the Playboy.
Yeah, it is a party school.
So I'm like, okay, the weather is good there. It's
Yeah.
a great party school. The industrial engineering degree was also okay. So okay, I'll just go there, and yeah, that's what I did.
No
And
way. That's
You know,
awesome.
Sean's from there, right?
No,
was a good.
I'm not from
uh,
Arizona, but yeah, Arizona State's a party school.
Oh yeah, it was like I was there between in Arizona between 2006 and 2011. So
Wow,
yeah.
that's awesome.
And one interesting fun fact, Hall Finney is in Arizona right now.
Oh, is his like his head?
I no, he is like frozen
Yeah,
in an
Cryogenic.
outdoor
Yeah.
lab, and that's in Scottsdale, Arizona.
it's in Arizona.
Yeah. So last time when I was in Miami, actually after Miami, I went back to Arizona to stay in my friend's house and all that stuff. And I had a plan to visit the Alcor labs and say my best regards to Hall Finney, but I didn't have time for it. But
Uh,
next time I'll go visit the labs.
yes,
I
exactly.
didn't know that.
I'll like do a small prayer or something, Thank you, Hall Finney, for giving us this tool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you going to run the marathon or the half marathon next week?
Yeah, I will. I mean, technically I have a marathon medal that was gifted to me by someone.
You
There's
didn't
no proof
run
of work there.
it. Proof of stake. Proof of
Yeah.
stake.
No, the guy was like, he was an ultra marathon runner and all that stuff. And he's like, well, I have so many and it wasn't a real medal. It was a medal you get when you finish the marathon under 4.5 hours or something.
Oh, wow.
He's like, I have
NFT
so
of a
many of
medal.
these. I'll just give this to you and you can give your first one to me. It's
Okay.
been 6 years now. I still didn't give him one, but I have an injury in my left ankle. But I'll do the half marathon. Like I'll start running, then I'll walk and maybe crawl
Yeah.
at the end, but I'll do it.
You can also spread it out over like 4 or 5 days. So
Yeah.
you do 5K.
For 10 days. You can spread it over 10 days.
Yeah, that should be doable.
I walk like nearly 2 hours with Labra every day. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, guys.
Hey,
Okay.
well, hey, Stackmore, thank you, man. It's been fun. And we just appreciate you coming on and getting your insight, especially from Turkey, and being able to just sit down, talk to you about inflation, everything that's going on. Give people a handoff, where they can find you, what you're building, if you have anywhere that people like take time to show what you got going on.
Well, yeah, I'm 1971 Bubble on Twitter. I make these YouTube videos with subtitles in English that have subtitles in this channel, but I don't know because the channel has a lot of Turkish content in it too. And last year I partnered with a surfing school in Turkey, and we accept Bitcoin. So if you come to Turkey and if you surf, yeah, just let me know.
All right.
Nice. How is the surf over there? Is that good?
It's okay. Like the waves are not huge because it's like a wind swell.
You're supposed to say it's awesome. It's the best surf in the world.
There's no second best.
There's no second best.
That's it.
The Turkish waves.
Oh yeah. Okay, guys. Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, good to talk to you like always.
Yeah, yeah, always fun. All right, well,
And we'll see each other the latest at the halving party, but hopefully before that.
yeah,
There we
having
go. There we go. But you
2024.
can't close the show out for Sean. Sean has to officially close the show, so he always has the last word in this show. But
Yeah, Marcus.
enjoyed it, man. Good meeting you online, and that's why we love doing these shows. We're secretly just
Yeah.
enjoying all this conversation we get to have with all the friends we've made throughout the years. You know, so thanks a lot. Enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yep, and for everyone else listening in, thank you guys for this year. 2022 has been awesome. If you're listening to this, this will probably be out in January, so the beginning of January. But for us, it's December 30th. So thank you everyone for listening in to the show over the past year. Play Marcus and I love doing this. We want to keep doing it. Thank you for the Sats donations that everyone has made. We still don't have any sponsors, so we're just kind of doing it out of our own free time, but we love doing it. It's been fun for us. We're true Bitcoiners. We just like being able to pass on this information that we've been able to gain. Hopefully you guys also have been able to gain some information from this. So thank you for listening in. And come to the having party in 2024. It's going to be absolutely insane. And remember, what you see here, what you hear here, when you leave here, don't just let it stay here. Please share, like, subscribe, pass along to a friend. If you found the information helpful or entertaining, let people know about Bitcoiner's Guide. And that's for Bitcoiner's Guide, episode 44. Stackmore.Hodl, Plan Marcus, and Big Sean Harris. We're over now. Peace.
See you next year.